For many people, primers are a completely missable step. You don't necessarily need to have one. If you've got quite good skin and you don't wear a lot of makeup, then you really don't need them. Especially when it comes to a foundation primer. I rarely wear a foundation primer. There are two occasions when I do. If I'm going out or going to a wedding, going somewhere where I really need my makeup to last all day without me even thinking about it, then I will use a foundation primer. Or if my skin is looking particularly dull or just not great, not blemishy necessarily, but just kind of a bit lackluster, then I'll use an illuminating primer. I'm a very big fan of a sort of dewy foundation, so quite often that is enough for me. Obviously for work I use primers all the time. I do a lot of bridal work, and then I just want to know that the foundation and the makeup is going to sit and look great all day. Primers not only add to the longevity of your makeup, but they just add an extra layer to the skin. It's like prepping a canvas before you paint on it. It just some of them have silicone in that will help even out any wrinkles or lines. They're particularly good if, like me, you have piercing scars. You can stick a bit of a silicone-y primer and it will cover it over. My piercing scars don't bother me, so I don't do that. Also, if you have oily skin or dry skin, you can get a corresponding primer that's going to help with that. When applying a primer, I apply primer after a moisturiser, before a foundation, and I think what's really important if you're using good skincare and a primer and a foundation is to make sure that you use nice fine layers of everything. You don't want to be slapping on really heavy layers, because that's all just going to shift and not have a chance to settle into your skin. And you give it a bit of time to sink in before applying the next layer of whatever it is. I tend to apply primer with my hands, but you can apply it with your hands, your brush, a beauty blender. If you use a beauty blender for your foundation, it's quite nice to use the same beauty blender for your primer. It means that if anything is going to be absorbed by the beauty blender, it'll be more primer than foundation. That being said, I find that if I'm using my proper original beauty blender, it doesn't really absorb much product at all, so that's not a worry that I have. My favourite brand for my kit for primers is Laura Mercier. She is famous for them. I have the standard original foundation primer in my kit, which suits everyone, works really well, no one's ever had a reaction to it. Everything about it is great. That looks like this. They do an illuminating one and they do an oil-free one. If you have oily skin, the oil-free one is great. If you have dull skin, the illuminating one is great. If you are having your photo taken or you're doing bridal or whatever, this one without any illumination, without the oil-free formula, is fantastic. If you have oily skin, you might not want to apply a primer all over the skin. What I tend to do is get something like this. This is Super Matte Anti-Shine Professional Cosmetics by Makeup International. This is a thing that appears in a lot of pro artist kits, but if you have oily skin, it might be something you want to look into getting yourself. And I just put this where the oiliness occurs, so often in the T-zone, on the chin, and you just apply it in a thin layer and wait for it to settle in, and then you can apply your foundation over the top. And it just means that you're not adding extra product onto the skin that could contribute to oiliness. You're just targeting the bits that you need. An alternative to a primer is a fixing spray, which most people will use over the top of makeup. I prefer to use it underneath. Quite often fixing sprays have things in them that good for your skin, so I don't really see the point in adding that over the top of makeup, because most of what is good for the skin is not going to get in through your makeup to do its goodness. MAC Fix Plus is a very famous version of this. This I would spray on my face just for the smell of it. And this is the Skin Treat Makeup Fixer 10 Effects from Joan Collins, which has loads of stuff in it that is supposed to be good for your skin. So to me, to spray it on after makeup is just pointless. So often if I've prepped my skin, everyone who watches this regularly knows that I will then do my eye makeup first. If my skin is particularly dry, or it just needs a bit of moisture boost, or I can't be bothered to use a proper primer, one of these just spritz lightly onto the skin will give you an injection of moisture, a bit of a boost, and will really help your foundation sit nicely on the skin, and will give it a bit more longevity. If my skin is looking particularly dull or grey, I love this. This is the Pixi Flawless Beauty Primer. I've put some on the back of my hand, but I'm not sure you're going to be able to see it in this light. It just gives a beautiful, quite subtle glow. So although I like a really dewy foundation anyway, if my skin's looking particularly lackluster, this just gives it a bit of oomph. And also remember, you don't have to put, this is beautiful on lots of different skins, and I even use this on mature skin. And the thing about primers is you don't have to put it all over your face. This gives such a lovely illumination, but if you've got mature skin, if there are areas where you've got quite defined wrinkles, you wouldn't necessarily want to put something illuminating on there, so you just skip that bit and put it where you would put a highlighter, just to add a bit of glow. But because you put it under the foundation, it's not so in your face as using a highlighter, so I really love that. Eye primers are something that I do use all the time, partly because I try out a lot of high street products, and partly because I wear eye makeup every day. I put it on first thing in the morning. Unless I'm going out in the evening and I have time, I will not think about it again until I take it off in the evening, and I want it to not shift. And you can now get really good eye primers on the high street. They're also really good if you're someone who likes bright colours. Quite often a primer will give you a really nice base for that. So you get two different kinds of eye primer. This is one of my favourites. This is the NYX HD primer. It comes with a doe foot applicator. It's not really got a colour to it. It's very easy to apply. I do a bit of scribbling on my eyelid. I then rub it in with my finger, and I give it a minute or so to settle into the skin. If you put your eye makeup on too soon, it's going to still be quite liquid, and it could cause some bobbling and a bit of movement. Lola eye base comes in a yellowy tone. This is to cancel out any redness, any pigmentation. So again, you're getting more of a blank canvas to start your makeup with. Both of these are sort of high street. I think this is £14 and this is £8 to £10. And I use them alternately every day, and think they're great, and they really make a difference to how your eye makeup sits in the same place all day and lasts all day. Going to more high end, Laura Mercier do their eye canvas range, which again are slightly tinted to reflect your skin tone. So again, you're sort of blanking out any pigmentation or discoloration. They are lovely. I wore them for my wedding. They do a good range of colours. Again, it's Laura Mercier and she's great at a primer. And then probably quite famously, the Urban Decay eye primer, Eye Potion, I think it's called, Eye Primer Potion, which again, you can get this, which is the original. It's not coloured. Does the trick, works well. It's quite expensive, but they've now started doing different kinds. So they've got the original, you've got a nude matte, So for some reason I deleted the end of this video, so I'm just refilming it, so the light's different, I look different, sorry. What I was saying was that you can now get eye primers in different colours and shades and finishes, and Urban Decay is one of the brands that does that. Also, unless you have a specific problem, I'd say if you have oily eyelids or something and you want to get a specific eye primer, but quite often a paint pot or a cream shadow base will do just as well as an eye primer, and of course this means that then you get a whole variety of colours. So sometimes I use the NYX Jumbo eye pencils as an eye base. They do one in black called Black Bean, and they do one in white called Milk, and they have pretty much every colour in between, and these do make a very nice eye base. They're only £5. They don't last all day. There is a bit of movement, so especially if you have oily lids, these would be fine on their own, but if you put a shadow on them they do tend to move a bit. One that is very popular, of course, is the Pro Longwear paint pots from MAC. This is in Stormy Pink. They're kind of the original eye bases, and again they can work instead of a primer. So if you've got things like this at home, don't necessarily have to run out and buy an eye primer, because these may work just as well. Also, what I tend to use is, if I ever buy a concealer in the wrong colour, which hasn't happened for a while, I have to say, but I tend to keep it, or quite often my friends will give them to me because they don't know what to do with them, and I do always try and persuade them to keep them and use them as an eye base. Again, if you have oily lids, it's better to use something specifically to prime the eyes rather than just a concealer in case the concealer moves, but you can always try it out. Give it a little time to set, but when it's still tacky you can just put the eyeshadow on and it works as a really nice base. And obviously, although it may be the wrong colour for your under eyes, it's probably nearish your skin colour, otherwise you shouldn't have bought it, and it will therefore cancel out pigmentation and things. One eye primer I haven't tried yet, which I really want to try, is Air Patrol from Benefit. I swatched it on the back of my hand and I think it really makes the colours pop. I mean, I hate that word, but I have no other term for it. It just makes the colours really stand out. So if you're someone who really likes a bright eye, or maybe has an eyeshadow that you feel looks less vibrant out of the palette than it does in the palette, then Air Patrol from Benefit I think is great. I can't vouch for its longevity as I haven't tried it, but it is on my list of things to go and buy when I get around to it. Imagine how long that list is. So I hope that's been helpful. I'm really sorry about the cut-off ending. If there's anything that's not clear, then let me know. I'm going to mention everything below. As I say always, this is primers that I've tried and primers that I like and primers that I would use again. If you have if there's something that I've not mentioned, if there's a product that I've not mentioned that you like and you're wondering why I haven't mentioned it, then leave me a comment below and I will let you know whether it's because I haven't tried it or for whatever reason it is that I don't like it. I know that L'Oreal do a very nice one that my sister really likes, that comes in a pot that you put on with a brush. I had it and I really liked it, but I've just run out and I haven't rebought it because, as I say, I don't wear a lot of primers on myself, and I use the Laura Mercier in my kit, but that's a very good one. A lot of high street brands are now doing primers, so there are just so many on the market at the moment, but these are the ones that I really like. If there is something that you are having trouble with, whether it's a trend or a specific makeup product, then let me know and I will plan an everyday guide for you. This is, as I say, it's not going to be a makeup artist's guide. I'm not going to be telling you everything completely in depth. It's there for people who wear a bit of makeup every day and just don't quite know how to do stuff or have some questions about things. That's what I get asked about most. I will put my link to their everyday guide to brows, which was the first in the series, below, and thank you so much for watching.